What does it mean to be a leader? What does it mean to be a great leader? How rare are they? We only know of 4 great leaders after the Prophet: Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. What if I told you there's a 5th great leader? What if there existed a leader who in just 2 years would eradicate poverty and corruption in the entire Muslim world? Who was this leader? Well, let's find out. In order to talk about this great leader, we need to mention a famous incident which happened to Umar ibn al-Khattab. One night, he was patrolling the streets of Medina. He happened to overhear a mother tell her daughter to mix water with milk. The daughter mentioned how Umar outlawed this practice. The mother said that Umar isn't watching, so just do it anyway. The daughter responded in a way which astonished Umar. She said that I cannot obey Allah in public and disobey Him in private. Umar was so amazed with this girl that he told his sons that one of them should marry this girl. So his son Asim married the girl. But why is this story relevant to the great leader that we mentioned earlier? Well, Asim had a daughter named Layla. Layla married Abdulaziz, the governor of Egypt. Their son would become that great leader. His name is Umar ibn Abdulaziz, or Umar II. Like his father and great-grandfather, Umar II stood for justice and feed accountability on the Day of Judgment. Umar was a shining beacon of light in the vast sea of darkness. Born in 63 AH, Umar II was drowned in royalty during the Umayyad dynasty rule. Being the son of the governor of Egypt, Umar could have whatever he imagined. He had the best clothing, perfume, and education. But this didn't stop his father from instilling Islamic and prophetic values in his son. Abdulaziz wanted his son Umar to have a strong religious background. So he sent Umar to Medina to learn at the hands of scholars. It was there where he learned at the hands of the Prophet's companion Anas ibn Malik. Anas ibn Malik praised Umar by saying, I have never been led in prayer by someone whose performance is closest to that of God's messenger other than that lad, meaning Umar. He also learned from one of the 7 jurists of Medina, Sheikh Ubaidullah ibn Abdullah. By the time Umar had entered his early 20s, he had accumulated so much praise from some of the greatest scholars and imams. And by the time he was 25, Khalif al-Walid appointed him as the governor of Medina. That's right, he was just 25 years old. Umar ibn Abdulaziz gained a reputation for his justice and his observance of Sharia. Muslims who were suffering from persecution from Al-Hajjaj in Iraq fled to Medina because of his reputation. Al-Hajjaj became so jealous of Umar ibn Abdulaziz that he persuaded the Khalif to remove Umar from power in Medina. After Al-Walid removed Umar from power, Umar left for Syria to join the battle against the Byzantines. Once Al-Walid and Al-Hajjaj had passed away, his brother Sulayman had assumed power. Now, Sulayman regarded Umar as a loyal, trustworthy advisor, and together they removed all of Hajjaj's men from power and expelled them. Sulayman trusted Umar so much that he entrusted him with the running of the affairs of the subjects of Syria. Upon Sulayman's deathbed, he wrote a sealed will in front of all the Umayyad notables telling them to obey his orders in the letter. They all agreed. So after he passed away, they were all shocked to hear that Umar ibn Abdulaziz would be chosen for the caliphate. Even Umar was unsatisfied with this result, so he went to the mosque and called for the people. He relieved himself of all the burdens of the caliphate and told the public to choose a new Khalifa. The people shouted that they wanted Umar. Knowing that the people are satisfied with him, Umar accepts this pledge and delivers a speech. He says, I've been appointed as your ruler, though I'm not the best among you. You're not obliged to obey me unless it involves obedience to Allah. So if I disobey Him, you are not to obey me. Umar ibn Abdulaziz accepted the responsibility of Khalifa at the age of 37, even though he never sought it and never liked it. This is what sets Umar apart from other leaders. But it is what he did during his rule that would make Umar so legendary. Upon assuming power, Umar's life would change forever. He would drop all privileges, all luxuries, and any resemblance of royalty for himself and his family. In just 1 year, Umar would lose any excess fat on his body to the extent where people could see his rib bones showing. Even when Umar had seen his wife wearing jewelry her father gave her, he gave her a choice between the jewelry and him. She can have one, not both. His wife, being a patient woman as she was, agreed to return all her jewelry to the public treasury. This is why instantaneously Umar returned all of the unjustly seized property to the public treasury, beginning with himself, by returning all the gifts given to him by his father-in-law Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. After that, he focused on all the usurped property of the nobles of the Umayyads. He didn't just stop there. Umar wanted to remove as much corruption and oppression in the Islamic State as he possibly could. Umar would famously announce during Hajj that whoever could go to Damascus and bring with them a complaint about being oppressed and wronged, then for them is 300 dinar. Whereas other rulers took from the public treasury for their own pleasure, he was extremely wary and cautious of abusing the people's money. He removed unjust taxes implemented by his predecessors, standardized weights and measurements, freed slaves of the royal household, and removed extravagances from the royal court. His financial reforms were so successful that it became too difficult to find poor people to distribute zakat. One critical moment of Umar's reign was when he changed the way Friday sermons are delivered forever. During the early years of the Umayyad rule, it was customary to publicly curse Ali radiallahu anhu. Umar abolished this practice and replaced it with the verse, "Indeed, Allah commands justice, grace, as well as courtesy to close relatives. He forbids indecency, wickedness, and aggression. He instructs you, so perhaps you will be mindful." And until today, we continue to recite this verse in our Friday khutbahs. Umar ibn Abdulaziz always maintained a good relationship with scholars and religious advisors. He deeply cared about da'wah and the spread of Islam. Under his rule, there were unprecedented levels of conversion rates to Islam. This resulted in dwindling income from the non-Muslim protection tax. He disregarded the money and said, "I would be too glad if all the non-Muslims embrace Islam and we have to take up cultivation for earning our living." All this change and reform attracted so much attention. Some of it good and some of it not so good. Some powerful people became very uncomfortable with the reforms Umar made during his reign, so they poisoned Umar. When Umar found out that it was a young slave boy who poisoned him, he asked the slave, why did he do such a thing? The slave told Umar that they promised him 1,000 dinars and his freedom. Umar then emancipated the boy for God's sake soon before he passed away. Umar's caliphate only lasted 2 years and 5 months, yet it was characterized by felicity, justice, and magnificence. His enthusiasm for justice resembled that of his great-grandfather, Umar ibn al-Khattab. His love for Islam resembled that of the great scholar Hassan al-Basri. In fact, according to a dream he mentioned to his wife, he saw the Prophet ﷺ and his 4 rightly guided companions enter a palace. When Umar ibn Abdulaziz was called to enter the palace, he found the Prophet and his companions sitting down. The Prophet told him to sit down next to Umar ibn Khattab, and so he sat. The Prophet then said to Umar, "Remain steadfast on what you are doing, remain steadfast on what you are doing." From this dream, scholars have interpreted that Umar ibn Abdulaziz is in fact the 5th rightly guided caliph. May Allah reward Umar for his piety and just rule. Ameen.